بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما
Inshallah. First of all, mashallah, Sheikh doesn't need any introduction. World knows because of his popularity, mashallah, in every field. But for those people who doesn't know, I just like to give an introduction, a small introduction. Shaykh Waleed Basyouni, PhD in the Vice President of Al-Maghrib Institute and Head of the Islamic Theology and Ethics Department. Shaykh Waleed graduated with a Bachelor in Islamic Science and Imam Muhammad University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and did his Master in Islamic Theology, World Religious and Modern Religious Sect from Al-Imam Muhammad University, and achieved a doctorate in theology from the Graduate Theological Foundation in Indiana. He studied from Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi, Shaykh Ibn Baz, Shaykh Ibn Jibril, and many other scholars. Shaykh Waleed Basyouni has made numerous appearances in media around the world, including CNN, Islam Channel, and Al-Huda Channel. He is an Imam and active member of the number of Islamic organizations and Islamic science such as NAIF, and is a director of the Texas Dawah Convention. Shaykh Waleed also gave fatwa as a member of the American Muslim Jurist Association, AMJA. And so inshallah, may Allah SWT bless him and give us more knowledge and in the field of dawah and many other institutions. So inshallah, Sheikh, without delay, please start.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. First of all, I would like to thank the brothers and sisters who are attending, who are organizing such a unique event, because usually when we talk about scholars who lived in early time in Islam. Even though we are talking about people who maybe passed away generations ago, like what we are talking about here today, me and Shaykh Hafidhahullah, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Rahimahullah. I was thinking that, he was born about 117 years ago. So that's a quite time. I'm sure many have not even heard of Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi Rahimahullah, not even talk about meeting him or getting the pleasure to attend his classes. I myself want to put that record straight. I was not old enough to attend his classes, Rahimahullah. When I saw Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi and I started coming to visit him, he was old. He's like near his 90s. So there was nothing, there's no classes at that time. Same thing when I met Shaykh al-Albani, Rahimahullah. But my meeting with them was more of su'alat, questions, and coming to their homes, visiting them, listening to their conversation with the Shaykh who are older than me, doing my own research on some of the points and provided to them and asking their feedback about some of the points that I researched. So that's how I get to know Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Rahimahullah Ta'ala. And I'll talk more about him and my personal interaction with him, Rahimahullah Ta'ala, even though it is considered very limited and very small comparing to other scholars. But the amount of impact that this man have left on me is unbelievable. And I don't know how that with these few times that I met him and I stayed with him and I studied with him, it's limited amount of hours and days, but yet it has an impact until today on me, in my upbringing, some of the advices that he gave, the style that he had, rahimahullah ta'ala, was something very, very, very interesting. And subhanAllah, usually that's how real scholars are. يعني some of the ulama rahimahullah said كان إذا ذكر السلف افتضح أمرنا. One of the ulama once said, when we talk about the early generation scholars, it shows that we are fake, yani we're nothing. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all good. Yani, humility, it doesn't mean that you think less of yourself. It means that you think less about yourself. But this is very true when you compare, when you study the life of the true scholars, high caliber scholars. You see how the difference, how the distance between us and them, and that should just only lead to one conclusion, in my opinion, to be positive, which is to encourage us to copy their footsteps and to be inspired by their stories. And that's the whole point of mentioning the stories of so many in the Quran, including the prophets and messengers first, then other than the prophets and messengers, stories of great men and women through history who were giving to us as a role model. And no surprise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ضرب مثلا للذين آمنوا. He gave an example for the believing to be inspired by this example. And he gave the example of what? Two women, Maryam wa imra'ata Fir'aun, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Saf. And also the Ibrahim والذين معه, the Ibrahim and the Ibrahim alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam, and those who believed with him. قال من أنصاري إلى الله قالوا نحن أنصار الله. So the story of Al-Khadir, Luqman, Maryam, all these are inspirations, and Ashab al-Kahf. لذلك the practice of mentioning the story of great men and women to be a source of inspirations and guidance did not stop there. It continued. That's why we have the documentation of the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have the documentation of the life and the seerah of the four khulafa and the scholars of tabi'een and so forth. To the extent that Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said once, النظر في سير الرجال أحب إلي من النظر في أقوالهم. To study and to learn about the life of the scholars is more beloved to me than learning about their opinions and their fiqh opinions. Fiqh opinions, we study fiqh, he said, rahimahullah. But this is an inspiration when you read about their stories and as if you are with them. ولذلك كان ابن بدران قال ابن بدران رحمه الله في كتابه المدخل, when Ibn Badran talked about how you become a faqih, okay? And if you want to be a faqih, you want to be a scholar, you have to study the life of the scholars of the madhab that you study. So if you're going to follow, for example, the way of Ahlul Hadith, you need to know about the ulama of Ahlul Hadith. You want to follow the way of Ahmad ibn al-Hanabila, or the Shafi'iyah, or the Malikiyah, or the Ahnaf. You need to know about the life of the Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Abu Yusuf, and Muhammad al-Hasan al-Shaybani, and Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, Abdullah ibn Ahmad, Harb, and so forth. You need to learn about the life of those scholars, Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood. And if you see yourself as an educated Muslim, you should learn about the tabi'een, the atba' tabi'een. That's part of you. But also, it shouldn't stop there. It could never stop. It continues every generation. So that means us today, we arrive to the 21st century, taking you through history, until today, we should do the same. We should document the life of the scholars of our time, and we should know about them. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي على الحق منصورة. There will be continuously, always be a group of people upon the way of the Prophet sallallahu and the early generations. And in every generation, and it will never disappear. And those who are they? Al-Ulama, the scholars. And that's why studying the recent scholars' life, it is even can be more relevant to us. And I would say, yes, we focus a lot on the people who passed away, but it doesn't mean that also we do mention something about some scholars today. But the focus on the people who passed away, why? Because of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu قال فإن الحي لا تؤمن عليه الفتنة. The living one, there is nothing guaranteed that they will not change, or something, or fitna that they fall on. But when somebody die upon Islam, upon Sunnah, upon knowledge, khalas, it's sealed, alhamdulillah. We hope for him or her nothing but great reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi, and I want to make this more of not there's a lot of maybe academic discussions will take, but I'm gonna follow his style. His style, rahimahullah, in teaching was to simplify things, to make it more of a conversation, an easy thing, easy going. Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, rahimahullah, known as An-Nubi. An-Nubi, it's in the southern of Egypt, and south of Egypt. And every time you go south of Egypt, which is Sa'id, and you talk about a very Maliki, heavy Maliki area. All Sa'id, all south of Egypt are Malikis. And you go up north, mainly Shawafi. And southern Egypt was always the place where a lot of scholars moved and lived, like al-Qurtubi, when he came from al-Andalus, he went all the way down south. So it known also of a very stronghold for Sufism, very stronghold for a lot of Arab tribes. That's why he is from a tribe that goes back to Arabia, Bani Rabi', rahimahullah ta'ala. He was born in a place it's called Al-Munufiyya. He himself, it's a little bit northern of Anuba, and he was born in 1905. 1905. That's about 117 years ago. Some said 1907. You can imagine that time they don't have necessarily a very accurate documentations of birth and stuff like that. And also, obviously, we don't have concept of birthday celebration or anything of that nature, so it's not something recognized. But anyway, he's around that. It's 2 years different. 1905. That's what most of the people who wrote his biography mentioned. And rahimahullah ta'ala, I don't know if you saw his pictures. I saw that in the flyer, and I'm glad that his pictures there just for you to see him. Is like, just by looking at the Sheikh, very respectful, someone that you will respect instantly. And you will, if you saw the Sheikh, even with the big beard that he had that fully cover his upper, his neck and his chest, and it's very thick, rahimahullah. His feature is interesting. Is like, his face is kind of round and very clear, big eyes, nose, thick eyebrows, rahimahullah ta'ala. His mouth, I still remember, it's big, wide, and when he speaks, it's so clear. His talk, rahimahullah ta'ala. A big man. He's tall. Even though most of the time I saw him in the wheelchair, but when he stand up, he's tall. At least, I guess, he will be 6'2" or something like that, 6'1", 6'2", at least, 6 feet and 2 inches. Like he is taller than me, rahimahullah ta'ala. Remember shaking this big hand. His hand is mashallah big, but same time it's soft from inside. Very built person. Yet, subhanAllah, when you see him, you don't see a man who is very rough or scary looking. No, very approachable, rahimahullah, too. And one thing I noticed about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, he always wear a very loose, baggy type of thobe. And that's known to the southern of Egypt, that they wear this close to the Sudani type of thobes, if you're familiar with that. And rahimahullah, he didn't like the silky type of thobes, the soft one. He loved this thick, and I was surprised kind of materials that he likes, even in winter, summer, he would like that. And his thobe always short, according to the Sunnah, rahimahullah ta'ala. Shaykh rahimahullah, his Arabic, his vocabularies, the words that he chooses are very clear, simple, depth, and variety of, of word. One of his favorite book was a book called Al-Qamus al-Muhit من Fairuz Abadi. Al-Qamus al-Muhit, it's a dictionary in Arabic. I remember one of the first time I met him, he told me about this book, and he advised me to have this book and to read in it. Shaykh Rahimahullah, this book, it's like the Mus'haf with him all the time. He will look at it, he will review it, he will read from it, bring fawaid, gems from it. So it's an Arabic dictionary. That's why one of the things about him, rahimahullah ta'ala, is that he's always like to look at the roots of the word. So for example, if you mention any word, he will tell you, oh, the root of this word goes to that word, and because of that original meaning, it was used this way and that way and that way. Okay, so it's amazing. And sometimes he will bring things that do not even cross your mind. I remember one time he said, "Yushammitu." Why yushammitu? When someone sneezes, okay, we said the tashmitu al-atis. He said to me once, "Shamata." And I said, "Sheikh, why it's called shamata?" And he said, he asked me to, and that's something about him. He always asks the person, shamata, what comes from? Because la tushmit bi al-a'da, don't let the enemies have shamata on me, which it means, they are happy about the bad things that happen to me. Shamata originally, like used in the Quran to refer to when something bad happened to you and people so happy that your enemy, happy that the bad things happen to you. So how can this word be used for someone who sneezes, alhamdulillah? I never thought about this in my life. I've been using these terms all my life, and I know what it means in Arabic, and I know I'm familiar with the other meaning, but I never crossed my mind. And that's one thing about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq rahimahullah. I can guarantee you 5 minutes with this Shaykh will make you think. Just 5 minutes sitting with him, he will make you use your brain. Or even less than 5 minutes. Then he told me, in Arabic language, we have something called, you use the words and you mean the opposite. Like, for example, when someone gets stung by a scorpion, or poison, we call salim, which it means someone who's free of harm. Okay? And someone who can't see, basir, he can't see. Because tafa'ulan, it will be the opposite of that. So ash-shamata, this is something that, because a sneeze, it maybe cause any harm to you. No, it will actually, you will be good after the sneeze, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you from that movement of the air, and it comes good. And what will happen, that it will make your friends happy, to make you happy, and will make your enemy feel bad because Allah saved you and reward you for this. So that's how it was used. It's a way of the Arabs speak. Anyway, rahimahullah ta'ala, one thing I know about him, that he never it's not like me sometimes, he's very smooth. He doesn't need to think about the words that he is using. And that's something very noticeable about him, rahimahullah. And ever, everybody knows him. I did not, listen, I understand what kind of person we talk about. I'm talking about someone, his students were from the generation of 20s to the generation of the 70s. People who are 70 years old, they call him Shaykhna, my teacher. And people who are 20 years old, they call him Shaykh, my teacher. And everyone in between. Literally, at one point, every single professor in the University of Jamiat al-Imam, where I study, every single one, from the top of the university, from the oldest scholars in the university, to my level as a student, we all consider him a teacher. He lived very long life, alhamdulillah. And the good thing about him, like Ibn Baz, until the last months of his life, he was giving. He was able to teach. Not teach, he is able to have people, conversation. His brain and his mind was kept, subhanAllah, functioning until he died, rahimahullah ta'ala. So that's why a lot of people get the chance to say that this is a teacher. But obviously there's a big difference between someone who studied with him a long time, spent years, and somebody who did not. Didn't catch him when he was able to attend his classes and durus and tafsir classes in the masjid. Those who did, those usually the elders, which is my teachers who passed away. Like who? Like Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, like Shaykh al-Atram rahimahullah ta'ala, Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan, may Allah give him a healthy long life. Those are the people who studied with him and spent good time with him. Shaykh rahimahullah. Anyway, so when we look about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq rahimahullah ta'ala, he studied in the beginning in al-Azhar, okay, and he graduated around 1930s, in late 1930s. He was about 25 to 27 years old, and that's when he finished his bachelor degree, rahimahullah. But there is no bachelor degree at the time, it's called Alamiyya, which is equal to bachelor. Then after that, he specialized in fiqh and usul al-fiqh, which is equal to the doctorate, the PhD. You call it takhassus, okay? And his takhassus was in the Maliki fiqh, rahimahullah ta'ala. So academically in al-Azhar, in the top of his peer, rahimahullah ta'ala, graduated from al-Azhar, and he was, even though he was in that field, he rahimahullah, as I will talk in a little bit, combined between so many different field of knowledge. So after he finished his Azhar study, rahimahullah ta'ala, he immediately became a teacher. He started teaching in the Azhar institutes, and they have small branches and institutes, small institutes over the country. So he was teaching in several places, rahimahullah ta'ala. And one thing that he held from that time, you talk about in 1930s, okay? In 1937, 38, something like that. Can you imagine? He was helping to establish branches like a high school's branch for Al-Azhar to teach up to the high school level in different villages and countryside in Egypt, rahimahullah ta'ala. Also, one of the things that he was very distinguished at that time, that when he was 38 years old, he was chosen to be the vice president of an organization that was born out of Al-Azhar as well, because the founder of it is Shaykh Muhammad Hamid al-Fiqhi, which is known as Ansar al-Sunnah al-Muhammadiyya, which is a very Salafi organization that was established in Egypt by the Shaykh Muhammad Hamid al-Fiqhi, and the first Jama'ah as a group, as an organized da'wah effort in the country. If I'm not mistaken, it's in 1926. So that makes Jama'at Ansar al-Sunnah al-Muhammadiyya was actually established 2 years before Muslim Brotherhood, because Muslim Brotherhood in 1928, and this one was 1926. And Shaykh Abdur Razzaq was among the early founders of this organized effort in da'wah. And that organized effort in da'wah was meant to focus on religious da'wah. Was no political ambitions at that time at all for them. What their goal was to free Egypt from all these practices that against the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, like the shrines that people go, make sujood to, tawaf around, slaughter their animals for it, pray to the dead, seeking refugees with them or seeking their help, taking them as intermediate between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All these practices of shirk that was widely practiced in Egypt. This is something that they dedicated to their efforts to fight. Also, the same time, they saw how the influence of some of the colonizations and the Western lifestyles coming to place. Also, the influence of the Mu'tazila and the Ash'aris, which is Al-Azhar, is an institute that adopt that ideologies on people. So they tried to push back. One of the things that they started doing, they started a publisher, matba'a, to publish books, and they brought the book of Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah and Ibn al-Qayyim, and they published it. And the good thing is they got, because they are scholars, they are a scholarly level, and also they came from an academic perspective, they came from knowledge as a sharing the knowledge. They got actually in the beginning, especially from Al-Azhar, quite support. Abdul Halim Salim, or even what is his name, Shaltut, the Shaykh Al-Azhar, and others. They respected that type of effort. And Shaykh Muhammad Hamd al-Faqih was a great scholar, Azhari graduate, well respected, and most of the scholars who led that organization graduated from Al-Azhar. So they were seen as not as a complementary to the da'wah in the field. Anyway, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq rahimahullah ta'ala was very young to be chosen to be the vice president of that organization. He dedicated so much of his life into support Jamaat Sunnah in Egypt, establishing multiple branches in it, and especially in Alexandria, rahimahullah ta'ala. When he was around late 40s or 48, something, he became the president of the whole entire Jamaat Sunnah Muhammadiyya, rahimahullah ta'ala, I think in 1959 or something around that time. After Muhammad Hamd al-Faqih passed away. The Sheikh, during this period of time working in Egypt, he used to go to Mecca for Hajj and Umrah on a regular basis, rahimahullah ta'ala, and met scholars there. So at that time, Saudi Arabia is just about to be starting the country is just to be founded. You know, if you know a little bit of history, that country, King Abdul Aziz took over. Now he took care of the country from security perspective, secured the country. Everybody gave him bay'ah. He became the king of the country. Now he started to build the country, and to build the country, build it from educations and economically and many other areas. So he needs that help. So he starts seeking help from Egypt, and when he went to Egypt, he looked to teachers and people who can help to develop the country. And among the people that he heard about, his brother or his son Saud, when he visited Egypt, was Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi, very high reputation, especially with Ansar al-Sunnah, known to be a Salafi organizations, people who follow the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's something go along with the movement and da'wah of Imam al-Mujaddid Shaykh Muhammad al-Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala. So they were interested to bring Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi into the country. Shaykh Abdur Razzaq at that time, he's already a scholar. Even he published a book that is considered a very important book. It's called al-Ulama, Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah ta'ala, talk about Allah's being above the world, refuting the Ash'ari and the Jahmi position of denying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being above the world. For him to be adopting these kind of books that's published with the commentary from the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, and the movement of Ansar al-Sunnah gave him a very good credibility. So they were interested in having him. They asked him to come to teach in Saudi Arabia and to help establishing Islamic educations in the country. Okay, especially he graduated from Al-Azhar, from an academic institute. At that time, Saudi Arabia is just the scholars and the ulama are what? They are scholars who just study under scholars in a masjid or in a private gathering and in homes and masajid, and in a very traditional way, nothing academic at all at that time. So he came, rahimahullah ta'ala, and he started with something called Dar al-Tawheed, the home of Tawheed in the Ta'if, and he started teaching in it, rahimahullah ta'ala. Also, after a short period, he went to Al-Qasim, to Aniza, where Shaykh rahimahullah's city is, and he started teaching there. And in that time, he stayed in Saudi Arabia, he came back to Egypt and came back. Then after that, he moved to Riyadh. He became more popular, and he was asked to establish and to start Kulliyat Sharia. So that's the first Kulliyah, the first college for Sharia to be established. He established that, rahimahullah ta'ala, in Saudi Arabia. Then after that, he said to the government, if we want to develop the Saudi Arabia, if we want to develop the shuyukh, the scholars, it has to be a university. And he came the idea of the university and the whole Muhammad bin Saud University, then Jamia Islamiyah, also university, one of the founder of this. So he brought that concept of building a university, not just a college. Not only that he told them, we have judges all over, the judges who are shuyukh, scholars, because they follow the Sharia. He said, you can't just be a judge like that. We need to give these judges a credibility. So what he did, he established something called Ma'had al-Qada al-Ali. Ma'had al-Qada al-Ali. And that's in 1960s, okay? The institute where all judges come and graduate. I just want you to think about someone who coming to a country which is so raw, now establishing university, establishing institute, establishing, an educational system to graduate judges, okay, to have a standardized judge in the country. You establishing something from nothing. And I know this can be controversial, but this never was said and never said publicly. But also, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi, rahimahullah, reality, he was behind the idea of Kibar al-Ulama in Saudi Arabia. Even the credit always giving to the official ones like Shaykh Muhammad Ibrahim, rahimahullah ta'ala, and I'm sure he deserved it. But Shaykh Razzaq was the one who behind the idea to the king and to the government that we need to establish a senior committee for the scholars, where the scholars meet and talk. So we kind of also having a unified fatwa, a unified position between the scholars. It's not like everybody going to different direction. Now we have a country, we have a leadership for the country, and as the country unified politically, it should be also somehow should be unified religiously, and they come together. And rahimahullah ta'ala, sure enough, he became even part of it, and he became the vice president of the permit committee of fatwa, rahimahullah ta'ala, when he was in his 60s, and this is in 1973 or 1970s. So this is just an overlook. I want you to see. By that time, by the way, long time ago, when he came to Saudi Arabia, in the early time for Islam, Saudi Arabia, he was giving Saudi citizenship, rahimahullah ta'ala, because he was giving a hard time in Egypt. Especially, he used to go back and forth. He was given a hard time by the Egyptian government after the revolution happened in Egypt, and the king lost his kingship, and this new republic came in place in Egypt. To the extent, one time, guys, his wife was not allowed to leave Egypt. She was going for vacation. She couldn't come back for years. Even though Shaykh rahimahullah have never had any problem, but some of these people who envy him, who hated him because of his aqeedah, his belief, caused some trouble for him. And she stayed for a long period of time, not sure how long exactly it is right now, but it was quite time, over a year or something like that, if it's not more, was not allowed to travel outside the country until later on she was able to come. But in about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, rahimahullah, if we imagine, he spent about 45 years of his life in Egypt, and 45 years of his life in Saudi Arabia, okay? In this 45 years in Saudi Arabia, rahimahullah, he established so many organizations for an institute for knowledge, countless of lectures and classes around the country, traveling from east to west, north to south, established the college and then the university, rahimahullah ta'ala, the institute to graduate judges, to the extent, guys, in his time, Shaykh Muhammad Ibrahim was in charge of choosing the judges, who will be the judge. And all the graduate from this institute, to be a judge, not every graduate will be fit to be a judge. It's equal to a master program. So they choose from them, or they choose the students who go to that institute, okay? Shaykh Ibrahim will ask Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, which one of the students you think should be a judge? how much they trust him. He's very good in reading people. He's very good in knowing who deserves it. And I noticed that. One thing about Shaykh rahimahullah, you will sit with Shaykh Abdur Razzaq and will be three people. One person will ask him a question, he will answer, yes, no, allowed, not allowed, don't do it. Another person will ask him, and he said, yes, do you know why? You know, what about this evidence? What about that? So what do you think of this? And he will engage for about 5, 7, 8 minutes, back and forth, bringing issues. It's the same issues. Rahimahullah, this is something interesting about him. He will not open up to anyone. He will only open up to people that he sees and he feels that they are true student of knowledge. They love knowledge. They understand knowledge. They respect knowledge. He will open up and he's very good at reading people. Rahimahullah ta'ala. Anyway, so most judges chosen through him, rahimahullah ta'ala. He also, among the people who put the curriculum for every major university, except for Jamia Islamiyya, choosing the teachers from around the world to come to teach in this university. And if you look at the founder of university of Jamia Islamiyya, you see the variety of the scholars. They represent multiple madhabs, multiple countries, multiple even background in da'wah background. He was very, rahimahullah ta'ala, involved and inclusive, rahimahullah ta'ala. Establishing also the curriculum and the university in Jamiat al-Imam in Saudi Arabia, where thousands and hundreds of thousands of students graduate later on. As for the amount of research papers that you wrote for the IFTA and for Hayat Kibar al-Ulama, I can tell you these are thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. I hope, my hope in life that this will be released. This never was released. And he, rahimahullah, never cared to release it because so much of his knowledge is kept in these, archive files in the government and the committee of senior scholars. So many research that he would write to Shaykh Baz, rahimahullah, to Muhammad Ibrahim, before that to Ibn Ahmed. And all this were documented. So many research that he'd done for different ministries in Saudi Arabia at that time. Like, for example, the Ministry of Finance. So many things when they have the issue of the zakat and how to deal with currency. Do you know, guys, at that time, there's some ulama thought that currency, because it doesn't have any more backup by gold and silver, it should be treated like gold and silver. So you take like a 50, like the amount of reals or whatever the currency is, and you weight it. If it's 85 gram, whatever. Some people said like crazy things like that. He wrote about this. He said, how can he deal with it? Oh, but stocks. He among the early people talk about the bursa, which is the stocks and the money exchange and the rules related to it, and an extensive type of writing in relation to things like that. Also, government asked him about political things and international relations and how this can be done. Especially in that time, a lot of kings cares about what the Sharia says. King Faisal, and before him, King Saud, King Abdul Aziz. So he wrote so much for them about so many areas that I think it's a treasure if it was published and it became available for us. Unfortunately, it's not, many of them are secret documents like for government, because it's anytime you talk to the king like a president, it became something private, so it's not for public. I don't think we have in Saudi Arabia what we have in the Western world after a certain amount of years, every document released. Maybe this will happen. But definitely there is a huge amount of work that he's done, rahimahullah. Unfortunately, not many of the public were able to see that. I get to know that because some of the scholars who have seen this, who work with him, have seen his work, rahimahullah ta'ala. He used to teach to the extent the king of Saudi Arabia loved his teaching, especially in tafsir, and he used to teach in the masjid where the kings lives, you know, and called Imara, where the king sits every day to meet the people. The masjid there, he used to teach there tafsir. That's only few people will have very senior scholars will be able to do that. Taking consideration that he's originally Egyptian, not even Saudi, and he will be giving that position. And the only way he proven himself is just through his knowledge, rahimahullah ta'ala, nothing else. Other people, they had a high position and status because of their ilm, but also there is another contributions to it, which is their family, the legacy of their family, and so forth. Shaykh Abdur Razzaq was not like that, rahimahullah. He had 5 children and 3 girls, rahimahullah. In his lifetime, 3 of his children died. Okay, he witnessed the death of 3 of his children, rahimahullah ta'ala. His first son, I believe, was born in 1944. The Sheikh was about 39 years, rahimahullah. His name is Ahmed. Yes, Ahmed, and he died in the war against Israel at that time in the 1973, in the famous war between Egypt and Israel, where the Egyptians crossed the canal, the Suez Canal, and the canal, and they defeated the Israelis. So he died in this famous battle between the Egyptian tanks and the Israeli tanks. And rahimahullah, when he died, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq was in Saudi Arabia. Okay, and he was actually that day. They used to teach because many of the people who studying are already having jobs. Either he's a judge or he's like nobody. There's like he's already practicing some of these positions. So what they do the academic studies in the night. So the Sheikh class in the college was actually from Asr to Maghrib. So he came and he started teaching. And while he was teaching, rahimahullah, the students said, like usual, his excellent class, same as every day, like a great class. And after we finished, we asked him. He kept answering our question. We kept him so late. And after he left the class, we found all the shuyukh of the scholars who teach in the university lining up outside waiting for him. They give him their condolence. So the students said, what happened? Then they were informed that early in the morning, he got the news that his son died in Egypt in the war. But yet he still came and he gave the class like in the usual, rahimahullah ta'ala. And they couldn't tell. His second son, Muhammad, and he also died, rahimahullah. He died. Muhammad, he didn't die in his time. Abdullah died in his lifetime, and one of his favorite children, Abdur Rahman, he died in car accident. SubhanAllah, he was burned, rahimahullah ta'ala, in 1988. And he was a student of knowledge. He's the only one from his children who was a student of knowledge. And he was very similar to the Sheikh, and he was a researcher in the Ifta, rahimahullah ta'ala. Abdur Rahman is a good friend of so many of my mentors and teachers, rahimahullah. One of his sons, Mahmoud. Mahmoud is a good man, happy person, subhanAllah. He used to be a teacher in a university, and he left teaching and he became dedicated to take care of his father, rahimahullah ta'ala. Also, Nabil, or Muhammad Nabil, one of his children. So he has Muhammad wa Mahmoud. So he has Muhammad wa Mahmoud wa Ahmed, who died in the war, wa Abdullah wa Abdur Rahman. Abdur Rahman wa Abdullah wa Mahmoud wa Muhammad wa Ahmed. And he has 3 daughters, rahimahullah ta'ala. I can't tell you an amazing thing about how patient he is. And you saw the story of son, Ahmed, who died in the war, and how he continued teaching in the same day. Abdur Rahman, that really hits him hard, but he was always kept himself together, rahimahullah ta'ala. He got so many diseases in his life. One thing that at one point he lost his sight, became blind, and he got it back. I don't know how. I don't think he actually made any. Some mentioned that he did some surgery and he got his eyesight back. Because I know one of my mentors, he was his supervisor and his master, but when he came blind, he said, I can't take care of it. So then he got it back. Rahimahullah, he stayed for a very long time, can't walk. Okay, and for a good amount of time, about a decade or more, has almost like he can't move part of his left side or right side, I'm not sure right now, but his hand and his leg, like kind of paralyzed. And he was completely went back normal, rahimahullah. And he used to say, maybe this is because of the black seeds, that he really believed in it, rahimahullah. And he used to take it a lot. So he really had a rough time. He's like, rahimahullah ta'ala, ups and downs health-wise. His prostate had a problem with it, and his end of his life, I went and I visited him in his hospital, rahimahullah ta'ala, because of it. Also, the Shaykh, rahimahullah, when he died while he's functioning, but he was all like the last 25 years or something like that, mainly in his wheelchair, rahimahullah. Walking was very hard for him. And I think that's because of how big he is. I heard him once saying, الرجل ركبتيه. The man is in the man depends on his knees. Depends on his knees. If your knees get busted, khalas, you're done. Because if you can't stand up and you face people like this, and you just go to the wheelchair, it became like, very disadvantaged for you. I guess because he's tall all his life, like see people from above, then all of a sudden he's like now, in a wheelchair. Maybe that's why it hits him hard, rahimahullah ta'ala. But he used to say, take care of your knees. And he said, rahimahullah, that's why he loves Bin Baz. He said Bin Baz has so much life in him because his knees are good. So it carry him, he can walk, he can go back and forth. Shaykh Bin Baz in his 90s and he still walk, normal, So this one thing I remember from him talking about the knees and how important to take care of your knees so you can keep functioning normally, especially he said in salah and going to the masjid. That's one of the main things for him, rahimahullah ta'ala. Anyway, what else about him personally? One thing about the Shaykh, rahimahullah, it was very humble. He took him to his house. He would open his house. You can walk into his house. His house is so simple. It is small. It is no fancy homes. If he wants, he would have millions and millions and millions of riyals, rahimahullah. You do know how much this man was loved by all kings, by all royal family, by all rich people. But he never asked for anything for himself, rahimahullah ta'ala. Never accepted gifts and from kings or from officials. His house is so like below average, I'll tell you, rahimahullah ta'ala. Even when they give him a car, he said, I don't want any car. Finally, they give him a car just to drive him from his house to the work. And after that, he said, I don't want it, rahimahullah ta'ala. Most of his salary, he used to spend it in helping the poor people. Do you know when he was in Egypt, just to tell you, this isn't a way of your life. This is how he was, rahimahullah. When he was in Egypt, in his apartment, he was a teacher in the high school and university and a small college in some countryside in Egypt, and he found students who traveled to the city to study with him, but they don't have a house. At that time, there's no hotels, nothing like that. He hosted them in his house. He used to have the students to sleep in his house and to live in his house, rahimahullah. And when he got married, he said, okay, now what are we going to do? He got married, and the house is not big. Do you know what he did? He left the house for them to stay in it, and he rented a house for himself. He comes from a very good family, rahimahullah ta'ala. So he didn't need, he can take care of himself financially, rahimahullah. So it's amazing. He had a house once that he let someone live in this house for 25 years. Never took a rent from him. Why? Because that person was poor. It's amazing about him, rahimahullah. You know, in Saudi Arabia, I witnessed that because in my university, as a student, every student in the university, we get a financial aid from the government. Yani they give us money every month. Let's say a couple of £100 or something like that every month. So, rahimahullah, he used to ask. Sometimes this money comes late. So he knows that the students who comes from outside the country, travel from foreign countries, they depends on this amount of money every month. So he used to ask, did the money came on time this month? Then they said, no, Sheikh, it's late. It's going to be like maybe in the 15th. Then he said, give me the list of all the students. Then he will give them money. He will tell the guy, the accountant in the university, go give them money. And he said, you know what? Don't give me my salary this month. Just distribute it to the students until their money comes. And sometimes they pay him back, sometimes he never asked. Rahimahullah ta'ala. You know, he had a house in Mecca. I don't know if you guys understand what that means. House in Mecca at that time, it near Dar al-Hadith, if you know where that is, where today the King Abdur Aziz entrance in Ajiyad. This is a prime location. This is worth literally, you know, millions and millions and millions of pounds today. He was giving he had a house. Obviously, he bought it when it was dirt cheap, you know, 70, 80 years ago. And guess what? Before he died, rahimahullah, he said that house will be waqf for Dar al-Hadith, the school of al-Hadith. Yeah, and he said that's millions and millions of pounds and dollars. He just left it to be waqf, rahimahullah. He became old, so he retired, okay, in the age of the legal retirement age, let's say 70 or something like that, 75. So he retired. So after he retired, there is something called retirement bonus, and you know, like after people retire, they start taking salary. Okay. Then he said, I can't take that salary after I retire because I don't work anymore. They said, yeah, Sheikh, but this is the government give people. He said, I'm not sure. Let's have a fatwa first from Hayat Kibar al-Ulama. We think about it and we see if that's allowed or not. For me to take from this is a public money. I don't know if I deserve that or not. It should be given to everyone or only people. We need to issue a fatwa first, then I can take it. That's how much wara', that's how much fear of just touching money that is not allowed for him. And then the Shaykh Baz rahimahullah said, no, you know what? I'm not gonna let you retire. And King Faisal said, someone like you should never retire. As long as you're healthy, you will continue work. Guess what? He continued work, rahimahullah, until he died. Will be consulting in fatwa because he always was able to function, rahimahullah. And he came back and he served for another 20 years, rahimahullah ta'ala. He used to be brought, so many times I saw him, be brought to his office in the wheelchair. And he stayed there. Sometimes people will come to his house bringing the fatwa. I remember a story of someone who was like the wakil, the undersecretary, we call him in America here, or like, let's say, the vice minister or of work affairs, if that's the right translation. He said, I had a question and I asked some of the shuyukh, has to do with my ministry, my work in the government. And I couldn't find the answer. He said, I asked if I can talk to Shaykh Abdur Razzaq. He's the one who's going to understand. He said, they told me he's at home. So I went to his house. So his son said, the Sheikh is a little bit under the weather, but let me ask him. Then they told him this so-and-so from the minister came in. He said he has something to do with that. You know, it's a governmental issue. We need a fatwa. If this allowed or not allowed, what can we do about that? Then he said, his son let me in, and I went to his bedroom while the Sheikh laying down in bed. And he said, I'm sorry I couldn't come. He said he brought tea and some cookies to him. And he said, I spent about an hour with him, back and forth, explaining to him the complexity of the issue. He said he was able to just solve it as if he works in my ministry. And I was so happy. And I left saying that there is no match to this man. May Allah preserve his life. Everything was solved. Excellent. I can go now do my work. That's the type of scholar he was, رحمه الله تعالى. يعني كان ممن طال عمره وحسن عمره نحسبه كذلك ونزكي الله أحدا. He really lived long, but he did so much good. That's what we think. His ilm and knowledge. Oh my God, I have 2 minutes left. Sorry. I didn't even start yet. Okay. La ilaha illallah.
Sheikh, if you need extra time, you can take. There's no problem. There's some brothers who have questions as well. So if you need extra time, it's no problem, Sheikh.
It's just sometimes hard to talk about people that anyway. I asked him once about the first book that he read. So he told me was Tafsir ibn Jarir Tabari. And he said, I was in the first, we call it today elementary, but in that time, it's like equal to what we call today middle school, okay? And he said, I was in that time, that age. And it was the first book that I read like as a solid book of knowledge. Tafsir ibn Jarir Tabari. And the Sheikh was poor, and he doesn't have much money to buy it. And it was published that time by a publisher called Dar al-Shah. So they published every juz by itself. So he said, I took the first juz, and the volume. I took it, I read it, I memorized it, I comprehended. Then I sold it, and with the money, the qirsh, okay, pence, and I went and I bought number 2. I read it, I finished, I comprehended, I know exactly what's in it, and I know that I have one chance. I have this for a short period of time. Finish it, and I did this for the 30 chapters until I finished the book, and I didn't need it after that. It's here and here. And maybe that's one of the reasons why, if you want everybody to talk about Abdur Razzaq, he will tell you that they never heard anyone give tafsir al-Quran like him. And Shaykh Abdur Razzaq rahimahullah told me something very interesting. A lot of people tell me, I want to learn tafsir al-Quran. I want to learn tafsir. Anybody, I learned this with Razzaq rahimahullah. Anyone who said he specialized in tafsir, you cannot be mufassir, you cannot have tafsir al-Quran as a science unless you master every other field in Sharia. Otherwise, your tafsir will be not good or not real or not that level of caliber scholar. The more knowledge you have, the better your tafsir will be. That's why tafsir is something you should not start do as a student of knowledge and a sheikh until you have very good background in ilm and knowledge. Because tafsir is nothing but fiqh, hadith, aqeedah, Arabic, literature, every field together, you mix them together, that's what tafsir is. That's why I can't understand somebody said, I'm special in tafsir, but he knows nothing about hadith or fiqh. That's just, I don't even believe that. Anyway, his memory is, somebody said photography memory, yes. He's one of the people who worked with him in the Iftah and the Fatwa Institute in Saudi Arabia, in al-Haytham. He said, one time I was searching, and I said, Sheikh, you remember so-and-so said that? And he said, yes, that's Ibn Qudama, rahimahullah, in his book, Al-Mughni. Al-Mughni was published in what? In one of the print is 18 or the print 28 volumes, or one of the print 20 volumes, okay? It depends on which, it's a huge book. He said, yes, in that volumes, in that page, and you find it in the top corner, even where it is in the page, rahimahullah. And it was a random issue, just came up. You know, you ask him about incidents, and that's something I met the Shaykh in the late 80s, near the 90s. And he was telling me incidents and details and names of people as if it just happened yesterday, and this thing took place 45 years ago, or 40 years ago, or 35 years ago. Giving me details about it, unbelievable. Rahimahullah, his memory is so good. You know, one of the mashayikh said, Shaykh bin Jibreen, said, I remember in Surah Saba. He said, I still remember that. First time I met Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, or among the early time I met Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, he was teaching Tafsir Surah Saba in the masjid. He said, I was shocked. He spent over an hour just in Tafsir, one verse or two. Another Shaykh said, I still remember I wrote 100 pages from him commenting on one or just a few verses in Surah Al-Baqarah. Rahimahullah ta'ala. With this deep knowledge, he has the ability to simplify knowledge. See, guys, I learned something from Shaykh Abdur Razzaq rahimahullah, and I learned it from his action. There is two types of scholars I met and I saw in my life. A scholars who al-ilm owns him. So that scholar's only what he does, he repeats the knowledge for you. Al-ilm malaka, yukarrib lak al-ilm. He just tells you what he have, you know, memorized or read. He repeats it to you. There is another type of scholar. Malak al-ilm. He owns the knowledge. He controls the knowledge, not controlled by the knowledge. The one who controlled by the knowledge, he just repeat it to you. Shaykh Abdur Razzaq was not. He controls the knowledge, so he give it to you the way he wants. He reshape it, he redirect it, he reframe it. He give it to you in many different ways. I've seen scholars, when you ask them questions, he has to pause and thinking and rephrase your question to meet the same phrases that he used to it in the books of fiqh. Then he start answering. Because khalas, that's how it is. But no, Shaykh Razzaq was not like that. That's why you have this ability of making complicated issues so simple in few words. You know? مثلا for instance, he was teaching once, explaining a concept of sabr al-taqsim. Sabr al-taqsim is basically something, one of the ways to analyze evidence, which is to bring all the evidence and to examine them. Then he said, Shuf, sabr al-taqsim is like, have you seen the one who, what do you call, the generator in the, like the school or a building would have all the keys? Like you have a keychain, have like 50 or 20 keys in it, and you try it, the door, it locked. Oh, that's the right one. No, wrong one. Ah, that's the right one. Open the key. He said that's how sabr al-taqsim is. You have all these keys, and you need to figure out which one that opened the door for you, which one unlock the hadith, unlock the ayat. Khalas, that's it. I will never forget what sabr al-taqsim means. He is unbelievable in giving example and things like that. Rahimahullah. I remember once he said, Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim, I asked him about them. He said, Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, is like someone who see a wall, and this is a big guy. He comes and he pushed the wall, and the whole wall collapsed. Just one hit. Can you imagine, like a bulldozer comes, hit it, and it will collapse. That's what Ibn Taymiyyah's style is, when he refutes someone. Ibn al-Qayyim, no. He pick brick by brick. Take this, and take this, and take this, until it collapses. Rahimahullah. That's why Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, he said, 60 ways to refute this, 20 ways to refute that. And I said, which one is better, Shaykhna? He said, sometimes Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, excellent, but the problem sometimes with Ibn al-Qayyim, when he said, you refute this from 20 points, 10 of them are excellent, 100% solid. Five of them, for example, is okay. I'm 5 are weak. He said, that's not good. Because what happened, people take these 5 points which are weak and they start refuting it. And they will ignore the rest of the solid 15 points. So your followers, when they hear the others refuting 5 points that you came up with, they start doubting you, doubting the haqq that you present. He said, that's why it's much better to bring 1 or 2 points and to destroy the whole argument, and instead of bringing 10, 2 of them are good and the rest are okay or weak. It's a methodology, rahimahullah. He has a very nice way of putting things. Like I remember he was telling us once, rahimahullah, Ibn Qudama. Ibn Qudama, he said, Ibn Qudama is as if he lived in our town. Ibn Qudama wrote 3 books. Al-Umdah, wal-Muqni', wal-Kafi. He said, it's like our time today. Al-Umdah for middle school. Wal-Muqni', it's for high schooler. Wal-Kafi, it's for college students. He said, even as scholars in the past, they have this understanding of people graduate in knowledge, rahimahullah ta'ala. Ibn Abdur Razzaq Afeefi, rahimahullah, Allah also gave him something very interesting. He is very intelligent, very sharp, very knowledgeable. Why I'm saying this is not common in scholars, by the way. A lot of scholars have knowledge, but they don't know how to debate. A lot of scholars knows how to debate, but they don't have knowledge. To have the both, that's something like not many people have that ability to refute and to establish the point. And he so quickly, rahimahullah, instantly can, because refuting someone, sometimes you don't need knowledge. And you can refute someone just to show how wrong he is. But it doesn't necessarily, I give you an example. One marra, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi, rahimahullah, was sitting, and it kind of shows you also he has a good sense of humor. He was sitting once, and you know, the Azhar have this hat, they had it on the top of them. So he had it, and it is facing upside down. Some Azharis have this kind of silly type of belief that it is a bad luck to be upside down. So one of these sheikhs saw him like that. He said, yeah, Sheikh, he, joking with him after Salah. And he said, Sheikh, flip it, keep it, don't put it upside down, make it open. So Allah's mercy will go inside it, descend in it. And the Sheikh said, no. And he took it and he put it upside down as it was. And he said, I don't want the shaitan to pee in it, to urinate in it. So that's has no knowledge. That's just a refutation on the spot, rahimahullah ta'ala, and show how silly that argument is. Anyway, also one thing about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, rahimahullah, which is very rare to be found in one scholar, is his ability to combine between knowledge and da'wah. As much as he was scholar, as much as da'iyah, as much as he cared about knowledge, he cared about the students. And not he cared about student knowledge, he cares about the public, rahimahullah. In Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, he used to travel in every country, also not only the major city, in countryside, small communities. He goes to them, he teaches them. You guys in England, I'm not sharing his life just to say, oh, wow, he was good. To us to learn, to inspire by him. We don't just go to London to give talks, or Manchester, or big cities. Also, we go to the small masajid and the small communities and reach out to neighbor countries where there's no student knowledge, where we can share the ilm. He cares about he said, I free my village from the shirk of swearing by other than Allah. In Egypt, they always say swear when Nabi. He said, none of his village, none of them, after it used to be a common thing, not a single one will do that anymore. They said, that's not that's shirk. No shrines, no worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Establishing institute, and an institute that lost his lifetime, rahimahullah ta'ala. He cared about al-Aqeedah, and he always say, focus on the principles in Aqeedah and fiqh. Don't be distracted by the new haram stuff. Focus in Aqeedah, and if you fix it, this haram things I'm practicing will be fixed afterwards. Also, he talks about a lot of, he said, if there is something became so popular in your time, care for it. And he gives the example, all the prophets and messengers focused on Tawheed. But look, when the issue of cheating in trade and Mikyal and Mizan became so popular and very common practice, Shu'aib talked about it and Quran documented. Because it's not because it's an Aqeedah issue, but because it's a wrong practice and it became so popular among people, fitna for the public. And it's the same thing with Lut, with the Liwat, the practice of the people of Lut. It was addressed because it's a common problem. So he said, you can't ignore these things. And he said, I'm going to focus on Tawheed only. His also position, like he was very strong and clear position. Let's put it this way. He has a very clear position from these groups. Like he was asked about Abdurrahman al-Khaliq, the Jama'at al-Jihad, and the jihadi ideologies of changing society and by violence. And he said, that's wrong. That's not the way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that Abdurrahman al-Khaliq and his group, Jama'at al-Jihad, going and killing and bombing and things like that. He said, that's just wrong. He said, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca didn't do that. And he said, Egypt today has worse in certain areas than it was Mecca, than the people of Mecca at that time, in certain areas. And he said, that's wrong. Even if their intention is good, their action is wrong. And he was also with Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood, rahimahullah. Even though he has a much linear position towards Ikhwan, and one of the reasons, in my opinion, because they were trying, you know, when they established Ansar Muhammadiyah, Hassan al-Banna started his group 2 years after. They were trying to making sure that Hassan al-Banna doesn't go and start his own. Let's be to work. And when he started Ikhwan Muslimin, they were trying his best to stay in aligned with Ansar Muhammadiyah. Shaykh Abdur Razzaq told me that the Ikhwan in Egypt used to attend his class. Some of them used to attend his class, but they will not pray behind me. And I said, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, they attend your class and they don't pray behind you? He said, yes, because they consider me an extreme Wahhabi Salafi. They will not pray behind me. And they go pray behind their own people. I said, so why they attend your class? He said, because Hassan al-Banna forced them to. And they are his, they are like by order. This is like an order for them. We cannot say no. And he said, that's a sad thing that people will just follow the command of the Amir or the ruler. And rahimahullah, I asked him, somebody asked him, one of my friends asked him about, is it true that they are like some sheikhs that are masons? He said, no, they're not. They were asking to calling people to Islam. And Hassan Banna, he used to, he really worked so hard to bring people from, streets to the masjid, blah, blah, blah. But they don't have inayah, they don't have knowledge, they don't have, cares for Aqeedah and things of that nature. But they should be giving da'wah and he clear what's right, right, wrong, wrong. He has very strong position against Tablighi. Maybe he is the strongest position among my teachers, the Tablighi. He said this is a bid'i jama'ah. And he said there's no khuruj. He said Egypt, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Mecca, anywhere, that's a bid'ah. All this khuruj and the concept is in itself bid'ah. Muhammad Ilyas is just nothing but an ignorant person who called people to bid'ah. It's a little bit, his language was very strong in my opinion. Shaykh Ibn Baz was not like that. Was much lenient towards and much moderate in his approach with Jamaat Tabligh. That's why he's not very popular with Tablighi people at all, because in King Faisal time, King Faisal asked him to write his position about Jamaat Tabligh, and he said they're trying to have a legal status like an official Jama'ah. And he said, no. Shaykh Razzaq said, that's wrong. In one country, under one leadership should not have any registered Jama'ah. Only one Jama'ah, Jama'at al-Muslimin. And he had very strong writing in regard to this. Anyway, he cares for students, rahimahullah. Do you know Shaykh al-Atram? He was blind. And it was a problem. How can blind people study? How can you examine? How can they take the exam? They used to bring someone katib. Then he told him that the katib the writer will write. But there is a problem. What if this, what if that? So Shaykh Abdur Razzaq said, no problem. Let them finish the semester, let them study. and let be the exam verbal. The teacher will ask them verbally. Rahimahullah. He said, but I will not lose the chance. They deserve to study, even if they are blind. He fight for the right. And he said, Al-Atram, he said, he came to me personally, said, don't miss your exam. Come to the exam. Finish your study. Also, the Shaykh, one of the things that about his knowledge, he was so athari, so Salafi to the max, to the bones. Rahimahullah. Yet, he is so usuli in usul fiqh. And the people in usul fiqh, usually, they're not Salafi. They have some Mu'tazila ideology, because the influence of Mu'tazila or Ahl al-Kalam. And also, they're not religious. Most of the usuli I met in my life, not religious people. They don't practice good. Most of the people usul, even in the history, if you read about some of the scholars in the history who known to be in al-usul, like al-Amidi, the student said, does he pray or he doesn't pray? They were not sure if he pray or not. Pray, not pray in masjid, pray. So for them to even doubt that in generally speaking, the people who are so into the usul al-fiqh, their religiosity is not that good. Or anyway, but this man was not like that. He was so avid worshipper. Every year he go to Hajj. And he never missed Salat al-Jama'ah. One of the sheikhs said, I saw him once because he hard to walk and he doesn't have the wheelchair. He went and he was holding into the walls until he went to the masjid. I saw him many times when the people in the wheelchair, he would when the adhan comes, let's leave. Rahimahullah. In Hajj, goes to Hajj every year. In the last year of his, a few years before he died, he couldn't go. But last year he said, I want to go. He asked Shaykh Baz to be with him. And he went with Shaykh Baz, rahimahullah. And he was always making dua. Everybody made Hajj with him. He said, in Arafah, he would be crying. This big beard of him will be wet from his tears, rahimahullah. He masters ilm al-mantiq, philosophy. Aristotle's philosophy and things like that. He mastered that. He understands it very well. Yet he's so Salafi, rahimahullah. He's so followed to the Sunnah, rahimahullah. You know, when he saw that led Hayat Kibar al-Ulama, okay, the committee of Shaykh, they used to start the gathering with reading Quran. Then the Shaykh said, that's bid'ah. He talking to them, he said, where do you get from that when people gather, they start their gathering with reciting Quran? He said, never practiced by the Salaf. And they stopped doing that. He's so followed to the athar, to the adillah, to the way of the Salaf, to the max. If you look, his commentaries is so short, so precise, but so deep. Read his commentary on Al-Amidi, on Tafsir al-Jalalain. I came to him once in a time where, at that time, were a huge debate in the Muslim world and between the student knowledge about takfir, is ignorant an excuse or not an excuse, and kufr and stuff like that. He solved this problem to me until today in one word. I have no issue with it. He said, Waleed, التكفير فتوى والكفر حكم شرعي. Kufr is a ruling. Takfir, to say so-and-so kafir, that's a fatwa. I got it. That's so simple. That's pretty true. Al-kufr, what is the action, the statement, the thing, the belief? Is it kufr or not? That's something very clear. But is the person who said that, who did that, become kafir because of this? That's fatwa. Different from one person to another. Some people, they can be excused for their ignorance. Some people will not be excused for their ignorance. Some people will be excused for this, some people will not. So it depends on the case. Oh my God, that's just make it so simple. This man also something so rare to be found in scholars. He mastered fiqh and he mastered hadith. He's Maliki, he's Hanbali. When he first came to Saudi Arabia, Shaykh Muhammad Ibrahim, rahimahullah, the Grand Mufti, saw this Egyptian guy from Egypt. He said, okay, I'm going to give you this book because this Hanbali country, okay? He said, Tikul Insaf al-Mirdawi. He said, that's copy for you to read it. Do you know it? Then Shaykh Abdur Razzaq smiled. He said, I read it all. Before I see you, before even I saw you. In this whole book, which is 10 volumes, whatever, he said, in it only 3 times Only 3 times a hadith was mentioned. Only 3 hadith in this whole 10 volumes. He made a point. This Shaykh Abdur Razzaq rahimahullah, when he came in the fatwa committee, the senior fatwa committee, he made a rule. He said, we have to change the way the fatwa is written. They used to mention the imams, the Hanbali said, the Shafi'i said, then they bring the evidence. He said, no, we should put the dalil first, then followed by the scholar's opinion, but not the scholar's opinion first. He said, Ibn Hamid came and he became in charge and he switched that and he messed it up for us. Otherwise, Ibn Baz was in line with him. And when Baz came, they all agreed to that, rahimahullah. In hadith, this man, I witnessed Shaykh Abdullah Sa'ad, if somebody knows who's that. He's a great scholar in hadith. He's a muhaddith of our time. His memory of hadith is unbelievable. Anyway, I witnessed Abdullah Sa'ad comes to Shaykh Abdur Razzaq's home, ask him question after question, and the Shaykh answered it as if he specialized in hadith. And people ask him in usul al-fiqh as if he specialized in usul al-fiqh. They say, usul al-fiqh ta'asir al-ulama. Usul al-fiqh will squeeze you. Except Abdur Razzaq, هو الذي عصرها. Abdur Razzaq rahimahullah squeezed usul al-fiqh and he reshaped it the way he wants. Rahimahullah. He used to read from Taqrib al-Tahdhib, the paragraph of scholar, before he goes to sleep. His wife will read from it for him. Somebody close to the Sheikh told me that. Sheikh also has something interesting. He have a very traditional Islamic studies way of learning the deen, but also cares so much about academic. Can you imagine the first students who took a master or PhD in Saudi Arabia was Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan. This great scholar is here today. Salih al-Fawzan is a scholar, he doesn't need PhD. The Mufti, the Bin Jibreen, he told them, you guys need to have PhD and master. The Sheikh, why? We have everything we want. We don't need that. The government give them all the positions they want. He said, no, in future, when this government change and new king and new generation comes, they will start saying, oh, the mashayikh have no academic studies, have no degrees. The mashayikh uneducated. They don't have a college degree. And they will look down upon you. Masters and PhD. He said this, I heard him saying that, rahimahullah. He said, it's like a cane. It helps you to walk faster, but also it is good when dog bark at you or wolf attack you, somebody attack you, you use it to shut them up. So in future, when people start, oh, these guys not academic, they don't have a degree, what is your degree? You can shut them up by saying, okay, you flash your PhD and a master's and graduate from Oxford, graduate from this, graduate from that. But also it helps you. Academic studies are important. And he was right. He saw this before anyone else in his time, rahimahullah. One thing about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, rahimahullah, he had a very small library book. He always focused on certain amount of books that he cares for. He used to say, صاحب الكتاب يغلب صاحب الكتب. He said, mastering one book is much powerful than mastering multiple books or knowing multiple books. If you have one book you master, you will defeat and you will be much higher level than someone who has a lot of books. I don't agree with that. Rahimahullah had a very semi-extreme opinion about books. I asked him once about that opinion. I heard about it, so I asked him, is it true? Then he said, if it is to me, if it's to me, I will make this announcement. Anyone has a book about Islam, bring it to me. I'll bring these books and mountains and mountains and mountains of books. But obviously, this is before internet, before all those. Okay? And he said, I will take from these books all the books of hadith, all the books that with isnad, narration. Okay? All the books that rijal, the biography of the scholar, who's thiqa, who's trustworthy narrator or not. I took all this and outside. Any books that isnad, tafsir by isnad, with the generator, I take everything like this out and fiqh like that out with asanid only. Then I will burn the rest. I said, what? I said, I will burn the rest. And everybody give me a book, I will give him equal to the weight of it gold. so he will be happy. I said, you will burn everything else? He said, everything else. And I said, Sheikh, I was known when I was younger as a troublemaker. Okay. So I said, even Ibn Taymiyyah's book, because I know how much he loves Ibn Taymiyyah. Then he looked at me and he said, yes. I said, Sheikh, he said, we're not gonna need it because we're gonna burn before Ibn Taymiyyah's books on Qayyim, the books of Ahl al-Bid'ah that he refuted. And in this way, we end all these Bid'ah books and became popular in the world and corrupt people's minds, and we go back to the early generation time. Come on, this is very ideal. He knows that. It's very ideal. But his point was, there's no need for, he said, and these books, Ibn Taymiyyah's Ilm and Ibn al-Qayyim, will be in the mind and the heart of the scholars. One of the things that he doesn't want the student knowledge to do, to rely only on books and leave that scholar. Anyway, but I'm just also saying what is for him and against it. Even though there is several commentary that he have published, rahimahullah, especially in the book Al-Ihkam al-Amidi and Tafsir al-Jalalain. Yes, a lot of his lectures written as books, but he, rahimahullah, didn't really write many books, rahimahullah. But one thing about Abdur Razzaq, anytime he speaks in any field of knowledge, you'll think that this is his specialty. And that's also very rare to find in the scholar. He told me once, al-ilm is two things: masail, issues, points, information, and usul or wasail, methodologies and principles. Waleed always try to understand the principles, because if you master them, you will know the information. Informations, this is halal, this is haram, this is not allowed. This is so many. Who said what? That's too much. You'll never be able to have it, and if you have it, you're never going to keep it, you forget. But what you need to focus on, why? Not only know this is the evidence, how does evidence lead to this? And that's why when I came and I said, Sheikh, I see in Riyadh so many scholars, who should I study with? Since Sheikh, you don't teach anymore. He said, you can bring your question to me, but I don't teach. Then I said, who should I study with? There has been Baz, there's been Uthaymeen, there's al-Barra, there's been Jibreen, there is Sadlan, Shaykh Salih al-Hidad, there's so many. Ismail Ansari, there's so many people. Then he said, when you study with the Sheikh, try to understand their methodology, the way they think, the way they process knowledge, more than knowing their opinions. That's amazing. That's why, rahimahullah, for example, when he teaches, he tells you, like the fiqh, if someone who's drunk and killed someone, this person should be punished for his crime and be killed for killing someone or not. You see, the Muslim jurist said, some said yes, some said, then Shaykh Abdur Razzaq said, it depends based on what? Even without knowing there's two opinions. He said, if somebody would look at this and said, he became drunk by himself, he made himself drunk, that's why he deserved to be punished. The other one will say, no, he was not capable of making sound decision. That's why he should not be held accountable. So knowing where the khilaf came from, the difference of opinion came from, is so important to him, rahimahullah. Also, he's very okay with you disagreeing with him as a student. As long as you disagree with him with knowledge, as long as you understand his point and his dalil, and you express yourself correctly, so even in masters and PhD students said that was fine. That's why Shaykh Abdur Razzaq never had a problem with many fatwa that Shaykh bin Baz used to have, different than what he thinks is correct. And he will let the public follow what bin Baz said, not his fatwa. What the Hayat Kibar al-Ulama said, what's the fatwa, the lajna, the committee of fatwa said, even if it goes against his personal choice. So many times I saw him doing that, rahimahullah. And he used to say, the public, it's better for them to follow the committee, not to me, or the Grand Mufti, rahimahullah ta'ala. Yani, somebody studied with him and Shaykh Muhammad Amin al-Shanqiqi, the one who wrote all about. And he said, Shinqiti is like an ocean, like a explode knowledge. Abdur Razzaq drip the knowledge, and he processes, he organizes it in your brain. The first one, just so much information at once. Again, the same difference. Control the knowledge, knowledge control you. That led great scholars to. Shaykh bin Baz used to come after Dhuhr, sometimes attend his class. He used to have a class in his office for the scholars, for Bin Jibreel, and then Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia now, so Shaykh. And they used to read with him also. Bin Baz will come and sit for a while, listen. Rahimahullah ta'ala. He's also kind. Funny is he saw the way he talked about his hat. Sometimes he said, today people are messed up. Yeah, and he changed so much. Weird. He said, today people is like that. You know, he comes from a countryside. He said, like far' al-basal, like the onion. Have you ever guys planted onion? When you plant the onions, the head of the onions down and the legs up, upside down. He said, people like onion today. Their heads down, their feet up. He said, like everything is like messed up, upside down. Once I was in his house and we talked about the difference between the Ta'if al-Mansur al-Farq al-Naji, is there is a difference or not? And he said, this one lead eventually to the other one. Then he told me, you see, Shaykh Hamad al-Shitwi is my teacher, is my mentor, and my close teacher. He's his favorite student. He said to me, this man is a Ta'if al-Mansur al-Farq al-Naji. Everybody started laughing. Follow him. Rahimahullah. He said once something very interesting, the way he put things. He said, see, people knows what's right and what's wrong. Everybody knows inside him what's right and what's wrong. There's so many things are very obvious, but people in denial. He said, even cats knows what's right and wrong. I was like, what? He said, if you have a cat and you give a cat food, the cat will eat it next to you. But if the cat steals the food from you, will never eat it next to you, will run away. They know what's right and what's wrong. They know when you feel. One time somebody said, Sheikh so-and-so, there's somebody, he suckled from his wife's breast and he had some milk in his mouth from her. Okay, whatever. So he said, she became his mother. And the Sheikh said, no, she is not. Then the man said, but she did this several times. He said, even if he did it until he died, he's still not her son. He will stay her husband. Allah. Anyway, I'll end with this. Once I wrote a book to defend Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah, and to refute Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, who also I get that chance to meet and to ask and trying to take some ijazah from him, rahimahullah. He's known also in Hadith. He used to be in Saudi Arabia. His son was with us in college. But Abu Ghudda is very hardcore Ikhwan Muslimin, very hardcore Ash'ari, anti-Salafi. So he wrote Shaykh al-Albani also wrote a very, very harsh refutation to him. I think it was harsh. So Abu Ghudda refuted him by call al-Kalimat. Then I got excited and I felt that Abu Ghudda's refutation to al-Albani was so out of line. He avoided the real point that Shaykh al-Albani raised. And it was very, very poor refutation from him. And there is a lot of misconceptions he brought. So I wrote a refutation for Abu Ghudda. And I went to Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, asked him, excited about what I did. Sheikh looked at me and he said, you will die and you will be resurrected. And when you stand before Allah, Allah will not ask you if Fir'aun was a mu'min or kafir. So I paused a little bit. I said, what? He said, when you become before Allah will never ask you what do you believe about Fir'aun? He's a mu'min or kafir. You will never be asked this question on the day of judgment. So if you're not going to be asked about Fir'aun, you will never be going to be asked about Abu Ghudda. Leave him alone. But if you say something about Abu Ghudda, Allah will ask you about it. Abu Ghudda is an innovator, mubtadi'. And al-Albani is sahib sunnah, a person of sunnah. Leave them. Abu Ghudda comes to my house and he's nice to me. And he gave me his books and all his books in a box downstairs in the bedroom. I don't touch them. But that's it. I treat him like my Muslim brother, good treatment, you know, as a colleague or whatever. And that's it. But I don't waste my time. Don't waste your time refuting people. Focus on what will benefit you, what will build you. Don't publish it. And until today, I never published the book. I still have it. But that taught me in my life is to be very careful. If I say something about somebody, Allah will ask me about it. But if I keep my mouth shut, I will never be asked about it. If you think it's going to go unchecked, you're wrong. Even in politics. Oh, Imran Khan is this. Even something like that. I hear people talk about, oh, this Nawaz Sharif is that. This is like, I'm just giving an example from different. Oh, King so-and-so this. So. You know what? Are you want to be in front of Allah? Ask you, why did you say this about so-and-so? Al-Aqil, I don't want to even, in the day of judgment, I want to be very fast. I don't want to even, I don't care. I don't want to be asked about those people. Even if I have an answer, I don't want to waste my time waiting. Even the idea itself to be brought to be questioned about it is something that is just, for me, it became like, you know, why would I even, if I don't have to, why would I put it as one of the things that I have to go through on the day of judgment? That mindset is a different way of life. That's why Shaykh Abdur Razzaq will not allow people to be talking about people in his presence. My teacher, Shaykh Hamad, told me that Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, when he talks about Bin Baz, he cries. He couldn't hold his tears. So I said, Sheikh, let's try. He said, Waleed, you're really a troublemaker. I said, please. So we went to Shaykh Abdur Razzaq's house and we asked him about Bin Baz. What do you think of Shaykh Bin Baz? And wallahi, akhwan, my brothers and sisters, before he started, his tears start coming out down. And he said, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, Shaykh Bin Baz, هذا رجل, this is a man, was taken from the 3rd century, the Tabi'een, 2nd or 3rd generation. And he was supposed to be there. But Allah kept him for us. Otherwise, he doesn't belong to this time. And he was in tears. Allah put so much barakah in the world because of this man. Filled of life. Rahimahullah. Taqwa and ibadah and diyana. I asked him once about who's the two people who always disagree with each other among the scholars. Like especially in the senior scholar. He said to me, Ibn Uthaymeen ibn Ghudayyan. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, Shaykh Ibn Ghudayyan. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen be known to you. Ibn Ghudayyan is a very famous usuli scholar, in usul fiqh. So, and he said, I said, why? He said, Ibn Uthaymeen, faqih mujtahid. As a faqih, has ijtihad. He's very high level. Ibn Ghudayyan faqihun hanbali. He's faqih in Hanbali madhab. Ibn Uthaymeen, no. Above, beyond the madhab. And he said, they always disagree for a reason. See how the knowledge. Ibn Uthaymeen faqih, he cares about the details, the specifications, the adillah for a specific area. Ibn Ghudayyan is a scholar who cares about principle, maximum, qawaid, principle. His always brain work in a general sense. Ibn Uthaymeen brains work in a specific sense. Those people can't agree very often. That's why you need these both when you think. You need them to advise you, both sides. But they always clash because this person look at big picture, this person look at very specific. It just things like this. I never saw it in any other scholar. I had some testimonial from some scholars, but I'm sure you can find that online. On Thursday, or September 1st, 1994, Shaykh Rahimahullah passed away. They prayed on him in the Grand Masjid in Saudi Arabia in Riyadh. And he was buried after Jumu'ah prayers. And Shaykh bin Baz, he's the one who led the funeral prayer on him. And I was there with Shaykh Hamad. His janazah was just unbelievable. I was like a mile away from his grave because of the amount of people. From the royal family all the way to the students, small students in Riyadh came and attended the janazah of him, rahimahullah. Anyway, he used to love Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi, and he used to love him so much, and he used to love his recitation of the Quran. Even though some major Sufi scholars in Azhar, he will he will send him nice letters and salams, and they were colleagues. He's the Shaykh al-Azhar at that time. They studied together, kept in a personal level, but that never kept him from saying the truth. I asked him, Shaykh, I'm a student of knowledge. Sometimes Ikhwan Muslimin invite me, Tabligh invite me, Ash'aris invite me, Salafi invites me, Liberal invites me, everybody invite me to talk. What should they do, Shaykh? He said, Waleed, it's okay to put your hand with everybody and to go to talk everywhere. But make sure everybody knows that you're Salafi and Aqeedah. Everybody know that you follow the Sunnah. In other words, don't play politics. I disagree with you. I'm not part of this movement. I'm not part of this Aqeedah. But you have nothing from me but respect. I'm not going to come there to give you the words that sounds like as if I'm one of you or promote you. No, I don't do that. I'm not going to go to fight with you too. But there is so much haqq and common good between us we can talk about. But that will never stop me from also saying what I believe is correct, especially in my own platform. That ideas, that methodology, these nasihas, these advices, I owe it to him, rahimahullah. And many of the things that I learned in my life, either I learned from his students, that they observed him over these, Shaykh Hamad al-Shitwi, rahimahullah. And he was one of his dearest, most beloved students to him, especially among the young. We went to the hospital, the Shaykh didn't eat for about 2 days, refused to eat. When Shaykh Hamad came with me and we were together, we went to him, and his son Mahmoud said, oh, finally, Shaykh Abdur Razzaq was there. The scholars, great scholars, trying to convince him to eat. He's not. He's like so depressed. When Shaykh Hamad came, he said, Ahlan, 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 Shaykhna. And he said, give me the mulukhiyya. He loves mulukhiyya, Shaykh. Then he started feeding him the mulukhiyya. And like, mashallah, the Shaykh smiled. He loves Shaykh. And seeing this is my teacher, seeing him like that, going down and putting the shoes in the Shaykh's feet and just massaging the Shaykh's feet and everybody. That's something I miss so much. But I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our Shaykh. And I said something, I'm not sure if it is, I would say it again or not, but to a certain extent I believe in it. If I would have write down a list of 100 scholars after the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that I believe that they observe the ilm and the knowledge, or let's say after the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, I can guarantee you that I definitely will count Abdur Razzaq as one of these top 100 scholars in the history of Islam. Rahimahullah ta'ala. If he did not leave behind him books, he left behind him legends of great imams, great teachers, great scholars, and great institutes that still keep giving until today. So something we need to learn from this man's life. It's never about your name, but it's about the change and the positive impact that you will leave upon people after you long gone from this dunya. Allah forgive him. May Allah gather us with us. Sorry, I took 2 hours almost to talk about it, Sheikh.
No, Sheikh, it was very emotional, Sheikh. No, Sheikh, just 1 second, Sheikh. Just 1 second. Sheikh, hello?
Yes.
We have a Sheikh Zahid Fatah. He wanted to ask you a question. He's a student of Sheikh Usman Shushan from Birmingham. He wanted to ask, he did a biography of Sheikh Ahmed Shakir. Sheikh Zahid, can you come put your video on? He wanted to ask you a question.
السلام عليكم فضيلة الشيخ جزاكم الله خيرا.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا حياكم الله.
بارك الله فيكم. We felt like we were, almost living in those times, in those classes. جزاكم الله خير الجزاء.
الله يغفر له ويرحمه يا رب.
شيخنا Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, who did you feel he was most influenced by from the previous scholars? Maybe some of the Reform scholars. I don't know whether he had a relationship with the Shaykh Ahmed Shakir or Shaykh Rashid Rida before him, or some of these others. Did he ever mention these ulama? Was he influenced by some of them?
Shaykh Ahmed Shakir's father was his teacher. Ahmed Shakir was close to him, but Shaykh Ahmed Shakir's father, he was his teacher, and he mentioned him a couple of times. And he mentioned Shaykh Ahmed Shakir rahimahullah as someone that he knows, but I never get the impression that that he was like colleagues with him and things of that nature. Same thing was he also witnessed when Shaykh Rashid Rida passed away. Shaykh Abdur Razzaq in his 30s, mid-30s in Egypt. So definitely there is, and it's both from Azhar, there is influence right there. But I never seen Shaykh Abdur Razzaq influenced by Muhammad Rashid Rida's methodology. Shaykh Rashid Rida is more of, have a lot of like non-athari style, I'll be honest, and modernist type of, in the context of athari. And he's still in the large, in the Salafi realm, but he's very influenced by some of these like liberal kind of, or modernist approach. I think because of the time. Shaykh Abdur Razzaq, he has zero influence on the stuff. He's so athari to the bones, rahimahullah, and amazing about that. And with this, he's not rigid. So also his inayah bil hadith is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, there's a lot of things like I never thought, like I come sometimes with very specific questions in Tadrib al-Rawi and stuff like that. And he will talk about it for like 5-6 minutes as if he just studied it. And I'm sure, I mean, the last time he checked this maybe years ago, because he's been not teaching for 15 years or something like that, these books. Shaykh Abdullah Sa'ad was anybody knows Abdullah Sa'ad, he would be for about 30-40 minutes back and forth with him about narrators, and the Sheikh in like someone in his 80s, and keep back and pushing back. No, that's not how it is. Wow, like very specialized Abdullah Sa'ad. And we see the Sheikh like, and he coming to learn from the Sheikh and study from the Sheikh. But Abdullah Sa'ad is a very beautiful thing to say about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq Afeefi. And the same thing in Usul Fiqh and rahimahullah, yani, very rare. I never saw a scholar in my life have all this together. And you might find someone like Ahmed Shakir, a great scholar in hadith, but you will never find al-Aqeedah, wal-Sunnah, wal-Athar, wal-Ibadah, wal-Usul, wal-Mantiq. Yani, you will never find someone who can master all of those together. That's very rare.
And
he obviously loves the Shaykh Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah a lot, and he like always asked to be. He always asked me to do that. One thing Shaykh Abdur Razzaq also taught me. He said to me, in order for you to benefit from a scholar, before you ask him, research it first. He said, al-mufti, al-mustafti, ammi. If you just say, what's your opinion about this? That's ammi, that's the awam. Student of knowledge never ask like this. Student of knowledge, they go research, then they come ask. And he always recommended student of knowledge do research as many as they can. As many research as they can. Anyway, inshallah, maybe another time we talk about his methodology in ilm and stuff like that. And I encourage some of my teachers, like, this is my first time to talk about Shaykh Abdur Razzaq publicly. That's why it's very, very emotionally for me. And rahimahullah ta'ala.
Barakallahu feek.
Jazakallah, Shaykh. It was really emotional for the viewers as well, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, all of you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.